So a new story out from Ryan Grimm at The Intercept about Michael Cohen, and he's got an amazing source for this. So you all know by now that Michael Cohen got paid a lot of money by companies like AT&T and Novartis, and then some companies connected to Russian oligarchs to, I was greatly amused by some of the excuses, to consult with them on real estate, and other preposterous excuses, of course, to basically peddle influence, saying, yeah, I can get you favors from the Trump administration. And so now people are looking into who at AT&T and those other blue chip companies did that. But it turns out those were not the only people that Michael Cohen asked money of. So in this case, there is someone very important in the Qatari government, or that was in the Qatari government, that also had an interaction with Michael Cohen that is relevant to this. So, in several conversations with The Intercept since March, this gentleman, al-Rumaihi, talked about an encounter he had with President Donald Trump's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, in December of 2016. So, Trump has won the election, but he's not yet president. Al-Rumaihi said that Cohen asked him for an upfront fee of $1 million for his services in the midst of their conversation about a potential Qatari investment in US infrastructure. I don't know, and the report did not say whether he actually did this when asking for it. I would like $1 million, but he apparently did ask for that money. And he's like, look, you guys invest in American infrastructure. We'll get a couple guys in there, as you'll see in a second. That's also part of the deal, and then we'll look good for having you guys invest in building out America. You guys will look great, right? And we'll all make money. Now, in order for to make this happen, maybe you give me $1 million and we set this up for you, right? He's such a two-bit crook, and he's in a world of trouble because the FBI and the special counsel and all those guys have all this information. You think Michael Cohen was savvy enough to cover this up? He's got people he was trying to make deals with talking to the press. He's in so much trouble. Okay, as Grimm explains, as the conversation turned to the infrastructure fund, Cohen suggested that Qatar could revitalize some Midwestern towns, saying, according to al-Rumaihi, for example, we could find a steel factory that's about to shut down. You guys can invest, and I'll give you some names to appoint as partners. Oh, that's awesome. You guys put in the money, he says. We will put in the know-how and share the profits 50-50. We can perhaps get a federal government offtake agreement for 10 to 15 years. If we revitalize the city, great PR, you guys will look like you're saving the city. Everybody wins. Now, look, if you revitalize the city, that's good for the city, etc. But mainly Michael Cohen's talking about the profits. You're going to get half the profits, and then these guys that I'm going to name later, they're going to get half the profits. So who are those guys? And in fact, that's exactly what the guy he was talking to was wondering himself. Al-Rumaihi surmised that the biggest winners would be the silent partners who would put in quote unquote know-how rather than money and walk away with half the profits. Oh man, it's such a scheme. So they wound up not doing that deal. When al-Rumaihi asked Cohen more generally about important projects that the investment fund should back, Cohen said there were plenty of options, but Cohen said he would need $1 million first as part of his fee, as Rumaihi explained to The Intercept. And they explained in the follow-up that Rumaihi said he did not pay Cohen, and Cohen since revealed the account ledger includes no payment from al-Rumaihi or any companies connected to him, but he did try to get that money out of that guy. Whether he would have actually delivered on any of those deals is totally suspect. I don't know that AT&T ever got anything out of Michael Cohen, but here he was going around saying, oh yeah, Trump, I'm his personal lawyer. I could hook you up with them. I'm going to get you deals, great deals. You pay me first, Oh, corruption 101, okay. Now, all of this got revealed because of the Stormy Daniels affair, and remember that Michael Cohen had set up a company called Essential Consultants, and that was a company just to funnel money over to Stormy Daniels, $130,000 that he paid off. We found out very recently that it is now confirmed that Trump did pay back Michael Cohen, and that's why Giuliani had recently come out and gotten ahead of the story and said, yeah, he reimbursed him. So he was using accession consultants for that, but he was also using it to run these scams. And a lot of the banks were concerned about it, because if banks see suspicious activity, they have to report it to the government. And there was red flags all over Michael Cohen's accounts, especially in regards to essential consultants. And then Stormy Daniels' lawyer sent out a tweet with a picture of al-Rumaihi and Michael Cohen meeting at the Trump Tower lobby. So then one more reference in the Intercept to that. The photo sparked viral speculation that al-Rumaihi's visit was somehow connected to the sale of the Russian firm Rosneft, which closed on December 10th. Al-Rumaihi said that the deal was not part of his portfolio and had long been in the works, and that he did not meet that day with Flynn despite being at Trump Tower. So, look, take everything that everybody says with a grain of salt, including al-Rumaihi, who ran this enormous fund for Qatar. It was about a $100 billion fund. So they didn't wind up doing the deal that Cohen wanted, but they did do a deal, and then for an infrastructure project not related to this. And then there was the question of the Rosneft deal. Now, Rosneft is the Russian oil company, and they're the ones that had a deal with ExxonMobil, the sanctions that the Democrats in Obama put into place, and they wanted those sanctions lifted. Meanwhile, Qatar is also involved in this and also making a deal with Rosneft, and in fact, they bought a piece of Rosneft. And this guy running the $100 billion fund for Qatar happens to be at Trump Tower the same day that Flynn is talking with guys from Rosneft. And he says, oh, well, that part's a total coincidence. Don't worry about that part. No, I would worry about that part if I was the investigators. So now, back to the bank accounts for the final part of this story. Now we go to the New Yorker, Ronan Farrow reporting on this. There were reports about Michael Cohen's bank accounts and how there was suspicious activity. Well, recently, some of those financial records were released to the public by someone on the inside. And he went and talked to Ronan Farrow about why he did it. Because he said, look, you guys saw the AT&T, Novartis, et cetera, but there was two other huge reports about suspicious activity that totaled $3 million. And then they disappeared from the record. And I was afraid that they were going to make this disappear from the record. And this is unprecedented. So this guy on the inside in the government doesn't know who's making these records disappear. The New Yorker talked to 7 different officials who are involved in this process, and they all said suspicious activity reports disappearing are nearly unprecedented. They're supposed to be part of the permanent record. Now, not a lot of people can see them, but there's a certain place where they are, and the people who should be able to see them can't anymore. So they don't know who took them. Man, the corruption runs super deep. But in that case, we don't know. If it's a Trump, for example, Treasury Department making those records disappear, that's an enormous problem, massive, massive problem. It might, though, be the investigators who are pulling those records, the special counsel, and so that they don't get leaked. We don't know that yet. But so now let's go to the New Yorker report. The report also refers to 2 previous suspicious activity reports, or SARs, that the bank had filed, which documented even larger flows of questionable money into Cohen's account. Those 2 reports detail more than $3 million in additional transactions, triple the amount in the report released last week. Which individuals or corporations were involved remains a mystery. So there's a lot more suspicious activity in Michael Cohen's bank records than was previously reported. At this point, not surprising given all the evidence that's already publicly available. But some investigators should definitely be looking at that, because this corruption that's already public is massive. If that's not the part they were worried about, man, they really got to look into the ones that they're hiding. So that law enforcement official who leaked this, the first report says, I have never seen something pulled off the system. That system is a safeguard for the bank. It's a stockpile of information. When something's not there that should be, I immediately became concerned. And he says he realizes danger of leaking. You can get up to 5 years in prison, $250,000 fine, and he says he's terrified about that. But he thought that it was his duty to make sure that the public knew that there were these suspicious activities in Michael Cohen's account, and he would have never leaked it if they hadn't made 2 other reports disappear from the system, which almost never happens. So he was worried that they were going to get rid of all the evidence. And again, he doesn't know who's doing it either yet, and we'll find out hopefully later. But the fact that that exists is very important information for the American public to know. Finally, Cohen had set up a new account for himself as well to funnel the money from Essential Consultants. That's basically a shadow company that he set up. Now finally back into his account. Now he's spending out of that. He's paying for his Mercedes and other things, but he transferred $1 million into his own account as well. Now that was at Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, so that's where this part of the story picks up. They explained that Morgan Stanley Smith Barney marked those transactions, which added up to more than $1 million, as possible signs of, quote, bribery or gratuity, and, quote, suspicious use of third-party transactors, in other words, straw men. And other banks said they were concerned with, quote, money laundering. So there's a lot more to this story. Michael Cohen, the attorney for Donald Trump, apparently was up to a ton of corruption. Remember, the investigators raided his home, his hotel room, and his business. They have all of his records now. So if he's in this much trouble and he has information on Donald Trump, do you think that this guy would be concerned enough about ethics that he wouldn't flip on Donald Trump? That's exactly why Trump is in a panic over this. They've been running scams for a long, long time. If the FBI or investigators have those records now, only a matter of time. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.